Most people never reach their full potential, not because they aren't smart enough, but because they think growth isn't possible. The truth is, your brain can change, your abilities can improve, and your future depends more on your mindset than your starting point. That's exactly what Carol Dweck talks about in her book, Mindset. What is a growth mindset? Dweck spent decades studying how people think about ability. What she found was simple but powerful. People usually fall into two categories. Those with a fixed mindset believe their qualities, like intelligence or talent, are set in stone. You're either good at something or you're not. When they fail, they see it as proof that they're not capable. So, they avoid hard challenges. They give up more quickly. They focus on looking smart instead of getting better. Then there are those with a growth mindset. These people believe they can improve with time, effort, and feedback. When they run into problems, they don't shut down. They lean in. They try again, learn from what didn't work, and keep going. They focus on growth, not perfection. In studies with school children, Dweck found that those taught to develop a growth mindset actually raised their grades over time. Not because they got smarter overnight, but because they changed the way they approached learning. They started to see effort as something that leads to improvement. That small shift made a big difference. Why effort matters more than talent. Angela Duckworth built on this idea in her book, Grit. She wanted to know why some people kept pushing toward their goals while others stopped. What she discovered was that long-term success wasn't about being the most gifted. It was about being the most committed. Duckworth defines grit as a combination of passion and perseverance for long-term goals. Gritty people don't just show up once in a while. They keep showing up even when it's boring, difficult, or slow. In one study, Duckworth followed students at West Point, one of the toughest military academies in the world. She found that the best predictor of who would finish the training wasn't SAT scores or athletic ability. It was grit. The cadets who stuck it out had trained themselves to stay focused, not give up, and keep working towards something bigger. The same pattern showed up in other places too, in spelling bees, business settings, and even marriages. The people who succeeded weren't always the most naturally talented. They were the ones who kept going, no matter what. Talent can help at the beginning, but Duckworth warns that relying on talent too much can hold you back. If things come easily to you early on, you might never learn how to push through difficulty. Grit, on the other hand, gets stronger the more you use it. It becomes a habit, one that fuels long-term progress. Embrace challenges and learn from failure. Growth-minded people don't just push through challenges, they learn from them. Dweck found that when people see failure as a dead end, they stop trying. But when they see it as feedback, they stay in the game. One of the most powerful findings in her research was that children praised for effort instead of ability were more likely to enjoy hard tasks. They stayed focused longer and improved faster. Instead of thinking, "I'm bad at this," they started thinking, "I haven't learned this yet." Failure doesn't feel good, but growth-minded people train themselves to ask better questions when things go wrong. They don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" They ask, "What can I change next time?" Duckworth agrees. She explains that failure isn't a signal to stop, it's a signal to adapt. In fact, in her studies, she found that many high achievers had failed dozens of times before reaching success. What made the difference was that they used those failures to adjust, practice smarter, and come back stronger. This mindset shift changes your emotional reaction to setbacks. You stop feeling defeated and start feeling curious. You start to expect struggle, not as a sign of weakness, but as a sign that you're learning. The most successful people in any field are not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who learn faster because they fail forward. The power of deliberate practice. In Peak, Anders Ericsson explains that talent is overrated. What really builds skill is something called deliberate practice. This kind of practice is structured, goal-focused, and usually uncomfortable. It's not about doing what you're already good at. It's about targeting the parts you haven't mastered yet and working on them directly. Ericsson studied violinists, surgeons, chess players, and athletes. In each case, the top performers weren't the ones who started out the best. They were the ones who practiced with more intensity and more focus. Deliberate practice means breaking skills into smaller parts, working on them repeatedly, and tracking progress over time. It also involves getting frequent feedback from a coach, mentor, or expert. That feedback tells you exactly where you need to improve. This kind of practice is mentally demanding. It's not fun or automatic, but it's how true progress happens. Ericsson found that even world-class performers never stop doing this. They don't rely on talent. They train like beginners every day, even at the highest level. Duckworth connects this to grit, showing that the people who can stick with deliberate practice over the long term are the ones who become true experts. Not because of natural gifts, but because of how they practice. Rewire your self-talk and beliefs. Growth mindset starts with how you talk to yourself. Dweck explains that people usually carry beliefs about themselves that feel true but aren't. Thoughts like, "I'm not creative," or "I'll never be good at public speaking," can become part of your identity if you repeat them often enough. These thoughts turn into self-fulfilling cycles. You avoid challenges that would help you grow because you've already decided you can't improve. Dweck found that even changing a few key words in your inner voice can make a big difference. Saying, "I can't do this," becomes, "I can't do this yet." That one word opens the door for effort. It makes space for learning. She also found that people who wrote down their negative self-talk and then rewrote it with a growth mindset were able to perform better in later tasks. The way you talk to yourself shapes the way you act. Your self-talk affects your energy, your confidence, and your choices. Growth starts when you take control of that voice. Growth mindset in the real world. In the workplace, people with a growth mindset are more likely to seek out feedback, learn new skills, and adapt to changes. Dweck's studies found that companies with growth-minded cultures had more productive employees and stronger teams. Leaders who encouraged learning over perfection built more trust and got better results. In careers, grit is one of the strongest predictors of long-term achievement. Duckworth found that people who stayed committed to a goal for years were more likely to advance in their field, even if they didn't start out as the best. They stayed in the game longer, and that consistency paid off. They didn't chase every new trend. They focused, practiced, and improved. In relationships, a growth mindset leads to better communication and deeper connection. Dweck found that couples who believe people can change are more likely to work through problems together. They don't blame each other as much. They ask questions, listen, and grow as a team. In contrast, fixed mindset couples tend to fall into patterns. They think, "This is just how we are," and give up on solving deeper issues. The research is clear. Growth mindset isn't a nice idea. It's a life-changing approach to learning, working, and living. Your mindset shapes your path more than your background, your talent, or your luck. If you're ready to cultivate a growth mindset, check out Mindset by Carol Dweck, Grit by Angela Duckworth, and Peak by Anders Ericsson, using the Amazon links in the description. It helps support the channel, and more importantly, it might be the best investment you make all year. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep growing, keep learning, and take control of your future.